there is a temptation, especially for Westerners, and especially in the West for Americans, to have the fairness issue lead the way because we're egalitarian. We think everybody ought to be treated the same. There are no differences between people, whatever. But I don't see any reason why God would have to do that. Not the sovereign of the universe. He is not held to any fairness requirement that he has to treat everybody exactly the same. When you think about it, is it required of God that he rescue anyone from the mess that they've got themselves into? Does he have a requirement to forgive anybody? You know, the angels fell. He didn't have a requirement to rescue those angels. If he chooses to set up a rescue operation instead of just execute justice in the circumstance, that's an act of mercy and grace. He's not obliged to do that as a system to help rescue human beings. And if he does set up a rescue system, I don't think God is under any obligation to rescue all or to even make the rescue available to all equally. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't make it available to all equally, but I am trying to address a misunderstanding, this fairness kind of concept. If you owe me $1 million and some guy down the street owed me $1 million and I forgave that debt, notice the language I'm using. That's what we all often say. We'll forgive the debt. Am I obliged to forgive your debt simply because I was gracious to that person? No, of course not. If you have a bona fide debt, I can collect on it. And this is exactly the language that Jesus uses to describe the debt, our relationship with God on this issue, a debt. And God can forgive some debt if he wants to and not forgive others. And Jesus made this point in a parable about the man who went out early to work and the man who went out late to work, and Jesus paid them both the same. He said, look, can't I do what I want with my own? Because I was generous to one person, you're mad? You see, this isn't just true of God, it's true of us as well. We have the liberty to be generous to who we want to be generous. We don't have an obligation to be generous in the same way to everybody. We can treat people differently. God has the same liberty, I think, and that has to be factored into this question. The real question about the person in the darkest reaches of Africa or out in the jungles of Asia or whatever it happens to be is not whether or not he heard of Jesus, because he probably didn't. The real question is whether he kept God's law. And people say, what about the innocent, heathen who never heard kind of thing, the unevangelized? I said, the innocent guy goes right to heaven. He didn't have to hear about Jesus. He doesn't need Jesus if he's innocent. But where is that person? Where is the innocent person? Where is the person who has never committed any crimes against God? The innocent person goes right to heaven. But if you're not innocent, that's a different story. And then why should somebody in the darkest reaches of Africa or the jungles or whatever get a free pass just because they're geographically situated like that and didn't hear the message? No, they stand before God based on their behavior, and they will be judged by the revelation that they've been given. The problem is the revelation they've been given is enough to turn them toward the true God, and they universally turn against him. And so this isn't good news, judged by the revelation they've been given. It's bad news. Because as Paul says repeatedly, they are without excuse there in the first few chapters of Romans. So the real issue here is whether God has revealed himself in an adequate way to everybody on the planet. And I think Paul makes the point, and persuasively, that he has indeed done that. And whether they get the further revelation about Jesus is quite beside the point. Because Paul's point is that they have rebelled against the sovereign of the universe even before they get to this more detailed information, and so he's not required to give it.